Good afternoon. I'm Anjuli Gunaratne from the Goethe Institut, and we are so excited to be co-presenter of this afternoon, co-presenting Barbara Yelin and Thomas von Steinaecker. They will read for us from their beautiful book, The Summer of Her Life. And I think, Julia, in these troubling times, we need more than ever such heartwarming and thoughtful stories like this, right?
Almut? Ja, ganz herzlichen Dank. So welcome to the final weekend and the 10th day of the Hong Kong International Literary Festival. My name is Julia Kuhn. It's my pleasure, my privilege to be co-chair of the festival board. We've already had 9 days of online and hybrid events, but this is our very first day of good old-fashioned live events, and it does feel good, doesn't it? So, welcome to our speakers and all of you in the audience, and thank you for joining us this afternoon here at the Tai Kwun Arts and Heritage Center. A few important acknowledgements before we begin. On behalf of the festival board, I'd like to express our sincere gratitude to the Goethe Institut, of course, Tai Kwun for hosting us again, the Standing Committee on Language and Education and Research, or Scholar, for their ongoing support, our bookselling partner, Bookazine, and our media partners, the Financial Times, the South China Morning Post, and our broadcast partner, RTHK. All of the consulates and local arts organizations who are partnering with us this year, thank you a million times. It's not just the Goethe Institut who is sponsoring today's event that we are very, very grateful to. We have had very long-standing, very positive cooperations with them. It's a pleasure to work with you. Ganz herzlichen Dank, Goethe Institut und Almut. And thank you also to the donors without whom these events wouldn't be possible. All of you recognize the value of reading, the power of the written word. Your generous support makes this festival possible. So now on to the event, and I'm delighted to introduce my colleague Anjuli Gunaratne, who will moderate today's event. Anjuli is an assistant professor of English at the University of Hong Kong and one of the most fabulous women and literary critics that I know. She will be perfect to get Barbara Yelin and Thomas von Steinaecker to talk about the beauty, the visuality, the poetry of the summer of her life. So thank you very much to our authors and all of you, and enjoy the event.
Thank you so much, Julia, for that very generous introduction. Hello to everyone everyone in the room and everyone online. It's my absolute pleasure to introduce our authors today. Barbara Yelin and Thomas von Steinaecker. Barbara is best known for her award-winning graphic novel, Ermina. Based in the 1930s, Ermina tells with enormous sensitivity the story of a young woman who gives up her ideals and ends up condoning with Nazi atrocities. Barbara is the author of numerous other books as well and has received the 2015 Bavarian Art Prize for Literature, as well as a prestigious Max and Moritz Prize for the Best German-Speaking Comic Artist in 2016. Thomas von Steinaecker has received numerous awards for his novels, comic books, documentaries, and radio plays. His novels are wide-ranging in scope and theme. He has written family sagas, historical fiction, and dystopic fiction. TV documentaries are a large part of his work, and they mainly focus on the music of the 20th century. He is currently at work on several projects, including a book on unfinished works of art, a graphic novel on Karl-Heinz Stockhausen, and as well as a new novel. Welcome, Barbara and Thomas. I'm looking forward to our conversation. And I think, as we discussed before, we will begin with the two of you presenting the graphic novel and reading to us. So I turn things over to you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The screen sharing is not enabled yet. So is it possible to enable the screen sharing for us? Do you hear us? So, okay.
Oh, they can't share screen yet? They're working on it, yes, yes.
Okay.
Perfect.
While they're working on it, I was wondering if we could talk a little bit about the process of your collaboration. I'm very curious to know how this is the story that the two of you were inspired to tell. And I would like to know how you came up with the idea and how you went about making decisions on how to represent Gerda's story.
Okay. I guess I take the question. Well, basically, it's a very long story to tell, and it's been a very long process. So I make it short. I think we wanted to collaborate on a larger piece of work, and we decided that we should do something short to see whether we can work together and whether we fit together. And then I came up with the idea to ask a newspaper I'm working for, the Süddeutsche Zeitung, if we could do a weekly piece, a short piece that gets published every week with an ongoing story. And since this was for a newspaper, it should deal with time and with something that's not based on the news that are presented in the newspaper, but with something broader and more general and philosophical. And following the story, you should be able to get a sense of the passing of time. So these were my first ideas. And then I don't really remember. I remember that what I found most inspiring about Barbara's works was her dealing with female protagonists. And that was something I wanted to try out and to make it a little bit more challenging for myself. I think I decided that it should be an old woman telling the story. So, and then things came together, and the newspaper finally decided not to be part of the project. And then we went to my publishing house, Fischer. They had an online magazine, which changed the whole idea again, because we weren't confined to small episodes, because the newspaper only had a small space, but we could be like without limits. So that changed the whole content of the story again. So it's a line of several decisions, and it has a lot to do with chance, I think, why we came up with these ideas. And then, of course, we talked a lot about the topic and the story itself, and then it started changing, and it changed during the process of writing and drawing. So that was it.
Okay. Is it okay? We are now able to screen share, so
Okay.
I know everyone is looking forward to your reading. Thank you for your for giving us a sense of the background to the story. So I think all set up.
A day is a year, is a lifetime.
And we'll ring you when we get home, Mom.
Okay.
Have you got everything you...
Off you go then. I often think I'm already dead, and that this is eternity. Once.
Morning, Frau Wendt. Don't you want breakfast today?
Time used to fly.
I'd love to stay that. I'm really so sorry. Come on, Louis. Sorry. We need to hurry.
Whenever I think back.
Right, so sorry.
Bye, Frau Möller.
Mom, Grandpa smells funny. Shh. You're up and about early, Frau Wendt. Frau Wendt?
It hurts.
Oh, sorry.
But I still want to think back to those days more and more.
You okay?
Then I'll feel. Yes. That I'm still alive. House with dark rooms. Today in Washington.
Where am I going? Second floor? No. That's not me. It must be first?
First again. Top marks to Gerda. For God's sake, boys. Do you really want to keep being beaten in maths by a girl?
Always her.
Psst.
She's not a proper girl.
Truth is, numbers were the only place.
What?
Scared cat, silly prat.
Hey, wait!
You moved, you're out.
Haha.
1, 2, buckle my shoe.
Number nerd.
Nerd. Where I really felt at home. Three, 4, shut the door.
Gerda, Puppet, incredible! And I'm so useless at numbers. Have you seen this, Bernd?
Good heavens. You'll want to marry Einstein, huh?
No, no way, Dad. He is so old. Frau Wendt, lost your way again? You're floor 6.
5, 6, pick up sticks.
Come on then. I'll take you.
That which is written. Lift them up a bit, Frau Wendt. Like you're gonna fly.
Dancing ducks, more like.
Well done. Makes it lots easier. Sweet dreams, love. And if you look for a really long time, Gerda, you can read your future in the stars. And look, do you see it? a great bear. What's up? Are you cold?
I can't see anything. Can't see that stupid bear either.
You just have to join the dots. Then you see the picture. Come on, let's go back to Mom in the tent.
Dad?
Yes?
They've been dead for ages. The stars have. What we see is long since gone. I read that somewhere.
Invisible. For a long time. Heya!
About time. Me? I am here, aren't I? I'm not an express train.
I was invisible.
Nana Muscuri, Caterina Valente.
That's granny stuff. Elvis is where it's at.
Excuse me?
I thought I just need to find the magic word.
Got a light?
Then at last people might notice I exist. Sure, here you kid.
Thanks.
Don't I know you from somewhere?
Yes. I had recorder lessons with your mother once. I wasn't much good though.
Ha! Recorder? For real?
Johnny's mother teaches recorder?
Thanks a lot.
You two'll love me tender on your recorder at home, Johnny?
Very funny. After that?
Gerda, your books have arrived.
I concentrated all the more keenly
Don't get buried under that lot.
on things that were just like me. Numbers and stars. Which are still there even when you're not looking.
Thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You said something before, Thomas, about when you're reading this text that you wanted the reader to have a sense of time passing. But when I was reading it, there was a sense of time passing, but also returning, not just narratively, because as you both demonstrated, you need two voices to read. And to keep track with the narrative of the past and the present kind of, crashing into each other. And also the images. Something that I really enjoyed about this, about reading this graphic novel is that the past and the present are equally very vibrant. So sometimes you didn't quite know when you had moved into the past. So in a sense, time is passing, but time is also returning. And I was wondering if you could speak a little bit more about the way in which you construct time in this book.
As you said, it's of course we all have grandparents, and one of the main thing that impressed me most with my grandparents was, I'm sure it's different with everybody else, but I think people will know what I mean. What struck me most was that at a certain point in your life, it seemed that time stopped. They weren't these outgoing old people who decided to go on a world trip or something, but they just sat at home and played chess or watched TV, and all of a sudden time stopped and they just talked about the past. And there was this discrepancy with this kind of stasis at home and the room where nothing was changed and nothing really happened, and looking back at their life, which seemed so eventful, and they all had what I had, but all of a sudden time stopped. So that was something I wanted to, how do you say that, deal with, or that was interesting. It was a challenge to deal with also as a story, because a story where nothing happens, that's the greatest challenge, you know.
Yes, but the interesting thing is there is so much happening that even though the
Exactly.
present time is not moving, I mean, my grandparents were the same. I mean, their minds are very much alive, and it's traveling to the past in all kinds of interesting ways. And sometimes it's very hard to keep up with their journeys into the past in the present. And for you, Barbara, I know that in Ermina, for example, there's this real way in which you very poignantly deal with that question of choice and look for ways in which to represent the various trajectories that the choices we take in time have. And then you very, very beautifully represent those choices and those trajectories in space. I think I read somewhere where you had spoken about your graphic stories as a kind of map, that you lead the reader through these maps that are both temporal and spatial at the same time. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about your female characters. You always portray them having to make very difficult choices, and then take us through the consequences of those choices. And what I find really inspiring about your work is that you really don't dwell in the space of regret, even if the choice may have not been the perfect choice. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about how you think about your female characters and the choices that they make, and then the stories that you tell from those choices they make.
I think regarding the book we have now, The Summer of Her Life, this was something I think we found out on our way of speaking about Gerda, because it was clear, it became clear that Gerda is a woman in her time, and her time is a time which limits her from different angles. So professionally, she gets there are things which have been made very difficult for her. She's growing up in the 60s. She's very talented and gifted, and she's a great scientist. And then she finds out that her career ladder is just not open for her, and this is painful. And this was also painful for us to find out. And I think this is always something. In the process of researching, and it doesn't matter if it's a fictional or a real character, which you're kind of researching about. So for me, actually, the process of drawing itself means always to find out something about my protagonist. For me, drawing is kind of, you said that it's kind of tracing something. It's kind of finding things out about persons, about the backgrounds, and I mean that really directly. When I draw something, I have to think about what does she wear, where does she sit, what is her surrounding, and of course I absolutely then have to decide in which situation and which time does she live, and what does she have for choices as a choice. And with Gerda, we find out that there was not, she couldn't get both, and this is so tragic. She couldn't get both the family and the profession, so she had kind of to decide. And this is something, we reflected on a lot.
In terms, you just mentioned your process, the artistic process, your artistic process, in which when you're drawing these characters and bringing them to life, all the decisions that you have to make. In a conversation that we had via email, you had mentioned that you had some sketches that you would like to show us. I think this might be the perfect time to do that.
Absolutely. Let me see here. No, sorry, this is the wrong one, I think. Let me see. Yeah. No, we are right. I think so. Just to explain our process a bit, it was always, I think you could say, playing a tennis game or so. So one of us puts something to the other one, and then it's reflecting and giving it back. And this means that it's always in the process. And we see the writings. Now here we see the writing of Thomas, and then maybe Thomas, you want to tell about it. Yes.
Maybe Barbara, you want to go back to the first one. Well, I think about the process. Of course, first I had the outline of the story, and I knew the number of episodes, about the number, not the exact number, but I had to know. So I knew how much time do I have to tell the story? How many episodes are there? And what has to be told in the first episodes, and where am I heading? What's the outcome of the story? But within these episodes and the details, that was something we developed together. As Barbara just said, she had a lot of questions about details. When exactly is the story set? Where exactly? And what about the father? When was Gerda born? When exactly? In what year? And so in one of the episodes you just saw, I don't know if you could see that the father misses one leg, and so that means he was in the Second World War. This kind of stuff that wasn't that clear to me in the first place, and that was this tennis kind of thing we played together about. We played tennis for 2 years, and it was as exciting and stressful as it sounds. Although we didn't play to win, but to get the perfect outcome. And well, what you can see here, the first one, Barbara, these are sketches that I did just for me, to get a sense of, just for myself, to get a sense of what I want to tell in the particular episode. And I always started with the words of the narrator, of the off voice, as it were. And of course, that was the most challenging part for me, because you have to keep it very short, and at the same time it has to be something that is not shown in the picture, something like something that adds something to the picture. And so I always had to keep in mind what I wanted to see in the picture. And then we again talked about this together, and things changed. And then in the end, that would be the next picture. Yes, I sent kind of this to Barbara, where you have first a synopsis of what's going to happen in that episode, in that particular episode. And then you have one is the first picture, Erzählstimme is the narrator, and then 2, 3, and you have the different characters speaking, and I think there's also some description of what you can see in the picture. And then, of course, all this changed in the process of doing. And here is what how Barbara reacted to that.
So these have been
maybe you want to talk about this. Yeah.
Our first steps of no, not my first steps. So since Thomas gave me the script, and then we have this storyboard. And the storyboard or the thumbs is, I think, the most important part of working on a comic or on a graphic novel, because here we can see how it works, and then we have something to speak about. And this is again, we work on it, and here we had this was the episode 2 you have just seen, and we found out that it may be better to really go more into the real rooms of memory and how to do with it and how to deal with it. And then we thought maybe this was Thomas' idea, to have kind of of stairs down into Gerda's memory, and to find these rooms of memory. And that was really a very exciting process. Also then to decide which colors we give to each room. Do we want to give to each room? So the present, maybe the blue one, and then there is the memories, which is a more yellowish room, and then here we connect both of them. And this was very nice to find out. So, okay, she looks like into a window of her memory. And these are my original paintings, and then I combine it. Here we see the process again, like it was online, with a text. Yeah, I think.
But I think what you see here in the picture of the whole episode before is how the whole structure of the story was determined by its nature of being a webcomic first, because this reflects the nature of the webcomic, where you scroll down and you don't just browse through. Yeah, so I think in almost every episode we had one big picture that was filling the whole page in the end, and that was due to the fact that you scroll down and you discover certain details by scrolling down. Yeah. So the format determined the whole structure of the story. I think that's important.
Yeah, that was very interesting. The transition from the webcomic to making the book. That changed again the story a little bit. Not only the format, but again the story. So Thomas invented some in-between scenes, and so to find something for the pages. That was really a interesting experience about the different kinds of narration.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that with us. It's a real gift to see the process that writers go through, because often that's something we don't have access to, and then not everyone is as open as the two of you to kind of take us through your notes and everything. There's time for one more question from me before we turn to the questions of the audience, both in the house and online. If you're online, you can use the chat function to put your comments. So just to end, I just wanted to ask you, we know on a very basic level that the graphic novel is a carefully composed interaction between words, images, and narrative. And we all also know that spatial relationships, I mean, Barbara, you just mentioned that, you know, you were thinking about the spaces of her memory, right? It's not just movement in time, but, you know, how and where we store our memories. And in some way, the spatial relationships of what we experience in everyday life as a temporal action, the graphic novel is able to, in some ways, represent those memory spaces particularly well. And I was wondering that given the unique relationship that the graphic novel is able to stage between space and time, do you think that the poignancy and emotional force of the story comes not only from its content, but also from its form? I mean, the story itself, without its form, would be a very emotionally powerful story. But I was wondering how much of those formal decisions you made amplified the emotional intensity of the story that you're telling us. I mean, particularly important in the time of the pandemic when so many people are alone.
Maybe I think that comics or graphic novels, they have this very unique structure of showing a sequence of images, but you don't see there are not only the images, but you always have this space in between. You see the space in between. And the special thing with comics is that you have two panels, and as a reader, you will fill in with your imagination or your experience or whatever the space in between these images. And I think this is really kind of a very visual and magical method to include the reader into the story. So we do work not only with what we show, but also with what we keep space for the reader to fill. And sometimes we can do it bewusst. Sorry. Yeah, well, but doesn't matter. But I think to find the balance in building a graphic story like Thomas and I did, and that was also something we spoke a lot about, is how to handle these kind of sequence and empty spaces in between. Maybe Thomas, you also have something for this?
Yeah, I think what I've always found most fascinating about comics per se was that it's probably the shortest art form possible. As a writer, you have to keep it really short, and as a illustrator, you can't draw the whole life of Gerda, just small pieces, and you hope that at a certain point during the story, you as a reader get an idea of this whole, that invisible whole that's not seen in the story, and that's the space in between the pictures that Barbara was talking about. If it works, and to be honest, I think most of the time it doesn't work, but if it works, these very small pieces start to become something without limits, and that's magic. And that's the magic of comics, that you have almost nothing and then it explodes into the invisible.
Thank you so much. I think that's a perfect segue to other questions. Actually, there is a compliment, not a question, so maybe I should read the compliment before I move to the questions. It says, this is from the audience. I think the images in the book are well drawn, and the narration and dialogues combined with them makes the whole thing extremely captivating and thought-provoking. So there's a compliment for the two of you from the audience.
Thank you.
There's a question here about the translation. Someone asks, can you tell us a little bit about the English translation? How much control did you keep? Had you worked with the translator before?
I haven't worked with the translator before, and I think it's, since I'm mostly a novelist, the field of novel is totally different from the field of comics, where you have translators that are specialized on comics. Because, as I said, I think the main challenge is to keep the same space as in the original, and that's sometimes really, really hard with languages where you need more or less, fewer words than in German. I think I felt confident enough to check the English translation. I couldn't check the Dutch translation or not the French translation, but the English translation, that was interesting because one of the major challenges was we used dialects in the book. The nurses speak in Swabian. Do you say that? Schwäbisch. Also because of the fact that Barbara knows how to speak Schwäbisch, and we felt confident enough to use this one. And that was interesting to see how he switched that into an I think American English accent. And the second thing where I'm really well, which is really important to me, is that I took great care that the words are exactly where they are, because they correspond with the pictures. And if just one or two words get in the next picture, then the whole fun of it gets lost. So that was something that was really important to me, that the exact words are in the same space as in the original.
I just add that translation was done by John Reddick. Thank you, John.
Yeah, I think he did a really great job. Okay. Translators always get forgotten, so we really have to thank him.
There's a question for you, Barbara, and it is, do you usually work with other authors, or do you also work alone on your own story? And the audience member also wants to know if you have a preference either way, so not in a way to like insult Thomas or anything, but
don't say anything wrong here, Barbara.
Thank you for the question. This is a good question because actually I do both, and I like to do both. So both ways are a good way to experience more, and I really enjoy collaborating with with writers, because of course this gives me the possibility first to really focus on the images, but also to learn how and to enter another universe of narration. And this is so enriching, of course, because otherwise we sit alone at our table. So also drawing is a quite lonely work sometimes, and it is so good to have someone to discuss about the work together, who is involved the same way as I am. That's fantastic. I also really enjoy doing books on my own, and I did this several times. So my most important work up to now, Ermina, for example, 300 pages that I was the researcher and the narrator and the illustrator. Yeah, so at the moment I again work on a book alone, but I enjoy doing both. Yeah.
I enjoyed Ermina very, very much, and that's an extraordinary book as well. I just want to make sure that we're good on time. Yes. This question brings us back to collaboration. So the question is, will you collaborate again? And do you already have an idea for another project that the two of you might embark on?
We spoke about that, and we both agreed that we would like to, but we would love to. But on the other hand, our projects, so Thomas can say, of course, about his projects, but these comics books or graphic novels, to draw them or to make them is a very, very long procedure. It's taking years normally. So we both have projects that are probably reserving the next 5 years. So it's not so easy to find that space, but yes, that would be a good thing to do. Thomas, maybe?
Yeah, I think we both have so many projects that it's hard to find time. There has to be the opportunity because you mustn't forget that in the end, we also have to make a living from something. And this was basically a work of love, or how do you say, a labor of love, because of course it doesn't pay off. But we did this because we were interested in working together and in the story. But I think, as how do you say that? How as disappointing as it sounds, maybe this thinking about a project always depends also on the funding. As simple as that. If there's no funding, it's not possible to do a project or to work together. That's sad and simple.
In terms of your past projects, someone wants to know, and this may and I imagine this person is asking about your individual projects, but what is the project that you're most proud about creating, and which has been the most fun?
Barbara, you go first.
That's a good question. It's very difficult to speak about past works. I think that Summer of Her Life is together with Ermina and maybe another book, the books I really like most, but from my past work. But actually, the thing I really am passionate about is the work I'm working right now. It's always that, because this is where I'm really digging quite deeply into at the moment. And this is, maybe I can mention what it is. I do a biography about a Holocaust survivor, a lady who lives in Israel, and I am doing a longer book about her about all her life. Speaking about the fun of working, I think this is mostly the one moment in doing a book, and I love when I realized that narration and images really come together. So this is mostly a moment while I'm sketching and while I really see the idea gets wird lebendig. I really see that the idea is working. That is a wonderful moment. And apart of that, it's a lot of work, of course. It's not always fun, but it's a luxury to do that. I love my job.
Well, personally, I don't like to look back to my past works. Whenever there's a reading from my novels, also I feel really embarrassed because I see all the mistakes I made, and also when I'm done with, I really enjoy the process of working and creating. But when I'm done with something, it's I don't want to go back. I just want to look in the future, and of course the project you're working on right now is always the most important and the one you're most passionate about. But I have to say that The Summer of Her Life is something I still enjoy doing readings from, and I'm really proud of this. Yeah, because it works and it's still touching. We didn't make too many mistakes, I think.
No, you certainly did not make any mistakes. It's really an extraordinary book, and I think if you're thinking of its place right now, just reading this book in this moment, as I said very briefly when we were talking, it's even more urgent, I feel, because not only the story is sad. I mean, it is, you're watching someone dying, and you're kind of going on that journey with her that she's going on alone. But there's also a lot of humor, a lot of hopefulness, and a lot of joy. And her past memories are kind of, they're not just sad memories, right? She's remembering, and even though her career does not work out and her marriage does not work out, I think what the story tells us is a kind of celebration of a life, and why I really love that final image in the novel where you see this kind of globe of birds just kind of flying away. So I think that message of hope is very important, particularly right now. Thank you so much for giving us, for speaking to us, for sharing your work with us, and I really enjoyed your book, and I really enjoyed our conversation. I'd like to remind everyone that the event will be available to watch on demand until the end of November with English subtitles added after 48 hours here on Crowdcast, and also on Facebook and YouTube via Asia Society Hong Kong. Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you from us in Hong Kong. I love graphic novels, and I think I've got a great Christmas present for my sister and my best friend Julia in Köln. Always remember that our authors, our artists, our moderators are appearing for free in this festival, so the best way you can thank them is to buy their works. Thanks again, everybody. Thomas, Barbara, and Julie. Our next event here in F Hall will be at 6 o'clock when Les Bird will talk about his adventures in the Hong Kong Marine Police. And at 8:30 we have a hybrid event where 2 live and 3 virtual authors will talk about the future of travel writing, particularly interesting in this era of no travel. We also have events for the rest of the evening across the prison yard in JC Hall, so do please pick up a program and see what's on offer. We hope to see you later in the day. So thank you, Dankeschön, auf Wiedersehen, and see you soon. All the best.